reason that the high school project was moved to the forefront of our school planning facilities plan was that the NEASC accreditation comes up, as it was mentioned in the video, next year. We begin our evaluation process. We've already begun collecting data, putting together our mission statement, et cetera, for the high school. And part of the reason that we needed to move that was NEASC accreditation is up next year. There are several factors that could happen. We could be, and Dr. Gasper will get into this a little more, we could be not accredited, we could be put on a watch list, or we could be accredited. Right now, with the condition of our building, that's doubtful. Not having accreditation means that the diplomas are not accepted by some universities, our children's scholarship money is in jeopardy, other factors that not getting a diploma would mean. It means it's just a piece of paper, and for the hard work that our students have done to thrive in this community, I think it would be a shame to do that to our students. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gasper now, and he can talk about what NEASC accreditation means, and he can give you a little bit of his background.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tony Gasper. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Schools. So if you'll please do me the favor of pardoning my scratchy voice tonight, I'm going to do the best to give you the background of the accreditation process. So in the simplest terms, accreditation is basically a seal of quality of the total high school program. The New England Association of Schools and Colleges has 7 standards that every school or college that chooses to be accredited aspires to. It's important that we all realize that there's no such thing as perfection. Schools are expected to be constantly working on improving the degree to which they are fulfilling these 7 standards for accreditation. And the standards aren't just kind of pulled out of thin air. They're not arbitrary. They're based on really sound national and international research about what makes schools great. So why does it matter? As Ms. Lambert said just a moment ago, it's a basic seal of quality that when your children or grandchildren apply to college, there's a stamp at the bottom of their transcript. And that stamp says, accredited by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. It's in somewhat of a joking way, it's obviously somewhat more serious than this. I tell people it's kind of like when you take that new toaster and you turn it over and you see that UL sticker, and it's a relative guarantee that it's not going to explode in your kitchen, right? It's a seal of quality. So obviously the accreditation process is much more serious than a toaster, but it's that same type of approach that somebody outside of the company that produced that appliance and somebody outside of Windham itself has reviewed the school and has said it meets standards of quality, or it's aspiring to do so. So the timeline for visitation, we've actually benefited from some nice treatment from NEASC, and we have actually received a delay in our visitation. Typically they occur once every 10 years. The fancy word is the decennial visit. Any students? That's a good vocab word if there's any students in the audience. Decennial, once every 10 years. And in between there, at year 2 and year 5, the school must submit report cards, basically, updates on how well we're doing since the last time. What'll happen, excuse me again, in this coming December, 16 of our colleagues will come from around New England, and they will spend 4 days here at Windham High School investigating every aspect of the program. The teachers, the students, the curriculum, the building. And what's really expected, am I moving on to the next slide? I'm not sure. What's really expected in the building that we're here to discuss tonight is that the town and the Board of Education have worked together to ensure that what we see in the building embodies what we say our curriculum is doing for kids. So, for example, here at Windham High School, we have 2 thriving academies. But does our building look like it? Does it look like we have the highest tech science labs and robotics labs and beautiful auditorium spaces and music spaces for our arts and the humanities? Or is this work that's yet to be done? And as somebody, I have not the most experience of anybody I've ever heard of, but I've done 13 of these visits. Typically I do about 1 a year. I go to one of these other high schools. And really what the visitors will look for is say, okay, Windham High School says it's about STEM and the humanities. Do we see that when we walk the halls? Do we see that when we visit classrooms? And the fact of the matter is right now, you don't. Windham High School has adopted the Academy's model more quickly than it's been able to update its facility. So that's the work that we have to do here. I want to stress though, because I know some people have different or varying thoughts about the academies, This renovation is needed in the eyes of NEASC, with or without the academies, right? Our science labs from 1970 are not sufficient to support instruction for today. Technology, infrastructure, heating and cooling, lighting, all of these things impact on how well our kids can learn skills that they need in the workforce 5 years from now, not from 1970. Of course, it seems to go without saying, but NEASC also looks to make sure that we've done the proper updates for all the varying codes. Are we in compliance? And of course, I'm not going to go into detail with that. Wayne Donaldson is our point person for such things. But you heard the students, I thought, say it quite well. And the really nice thing about the NEASC visitation process is they listen to the kids more than anybody else. In fact, each of the 16 visitors spend almost a full school day going to every class with every kid, with every 16 kids, 16 visitors. And they just ask questions like, is this classroom working for you? Are these hallways always this crowded? Is your locker big enough? They want to make sure that the kids' experience, in this case, with regard to the building, is productive and helpful, and it actually inspires them to learn what we want them to learn, what we say is in our curriculum. And with that, am I turning it over to somebody next? Back to Ms. Lambert.
Bring it back down again. I'm sorry, Mr. Powers, did you need something? We're not doing questions right now. You should have a piece of paper. You're going to write down the questions and they'll be addressed on the website. We're going to compile them all together and address them on the website. You can ask it and it'll be addressed on the website. Thank you. The educational impact of current facility and curriculum instruction. As Dr. Gasper said, in 1971 when this building was built, there were no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no Wi-Fi, all the things that we now have today. Technology in other ways has been upgraded over the years, and our building has failed to be able to keep up with it. The facilities, sorry, no, that's okay. They're negatively impacting student learning in that way. Modern classrooms are needed. Last year we put in smart boards, but not in every classroom is the technology to be able to support them and fully utilize them to help our students learn best. Staff attrition. This is a big deal in Windham right now and something we've been trying to address for a couple of years. Every year, about 17% of the teachers are turned over. That means any professional development, any training we've put into these teachers is now lost to another district, and we have to retrain new people that we bring in. Personal and family and neighborhood factors contribute to a student's academic performance, but a large body of research shows that it's the teachers that matter, that they are the most impactful people in the building, and if we continue to turn them over, we lose that impact that they're able to bring with the experience that they bring in teaching. 40%, which is a huge number. 92 out of every incoming freshman class decide to go to another school every year. That's a huge number, and when we build an up-to-date, technologically advanced, completely redesigned building, I shouldn't say fairly, completely redesigned building, we talk about renovate it new, it's gutting it and starting all over again from the ceiling all the way down to the floor. Everything in this building will be new. That will bring our students back. Every year we spend over $1 million sending our students out of district. $1 million of our taxpayer money every single year goes to send students that should be learning right here in this building. If it was the building that we need it to be and developing the curriculum we are developing right now back in this district, we would be keeping this money here. Each student leaves our school, every time a student leaves our school, more resources leave our school. If we had more students here, we'd have more resources in this building. We'd be able to develop different programs, more programs, and that's our goal in the end. Vacate the Kramer building. This has been a hot topic. There has been discussion, there has been conjecture, there has been requests, informal and formal, made that the Board of Ed vacate the Kramer building to be able to give it to Eastern. It is not a technologically advanced building, as we know, because we built the middle school to replace it. It is where our youngest learners currently are. Aliki Karaganis has been working with us to develop an early childhood center here in the high school, separate from the high school, completely removed from the high school students, so the two populations won't be mixing. We also have our fully funded, grant-funded Young Parents Program here. It would give a continuity of services to our youngest children and our children having children, our students having children, to be able to give our upcoming kindergartners, preschoolers, the best services we can possibly give them right in the same building without losing them to different service places and different educational opportunities. Safety and security, key cards, things that other schools have, other buildings have as they're renovating. We don't have any of that here. We have locks. You have to get buzzed in. Teachers have codes and stuff like that. But key cards could keep students from mixing when they're not supposed to. It could keep strangers from coming out, and it could make our building more accessible to the population. Overcrowding in elementary schools, with the exception of one, all of our elementary schools are overcrowded. Renovating this building, moving the early childhood out will eliminate having to put the early childhood in the elementary schools at some point later in the future. And it'll be able to give those classrooms to the K through 5 in the elementary schools. And the career pathways and the academies for the high school, it'll be able to make them more robust, to be able to give them the resources they need. It'll be able to give them and the teachers best ability to learn either arts and humanities or STEM that we're able to offer them. Now I'm going to turn it over to an English teacher, an AP English teacher, as well as other grade levels, but an AP English teacher and a citizen of this community who has also put a child, and maybe two, through Windham High School. Sarah Bolden.
We just can't seem to get the hybrid, can we? Okay, that'll work. Good evening. My name is Dara Bowling, and I stand here tonight in 3 different capacities. I'm a teacher at Windham High School. I'm a Windham High parent of a current 11th grader and an incoming freshman. And I'm a taxpayer here in Willimantic. I would like to speak from each vantage point tonight in the hopes of bringing several issues to light. First, I'd like to address you as a teacher. So, one of the first rules of architecture is that form follows function. So in other words, a space should be designed according to its intended purpose. And then the space and the purpose work together to create the final product. In our case, the education of our kids. While our space might have been the grooviest spot around and fit the need in the 70s, it no longer does. I don't imagine that my classroom looks appreciably different from how it looked 40 years ago. Our school is not currently designed to maximize the learning experience. And it's costing us approximately 40% of our middle schoolers every year who choose not to attend our high school, as well as failing to empower students to use their environment as a vital part of their learning experience. In a world where we see an increasing number of interior designers who create workspaces depending on the function they will serve, we are woefully far behind, particularly in light of the recent renovations that many schools in our area have chosen to complete. Here are some of the areas that I notice are problematic in the building. Please notice this is it's not exhaustive, it's just what I see in my day-to-day. Classrooms, desks, which are, by the way, a somewhat antiquated seating method, believe it or not. There's all this research that talks about different seating in classrooms. They're shaky, they're unsafe. My first year here, a student sat down at his desk and the back came off of his chair, fell right onto the floor. Of the 24 desks in my classroom, 23 of them have desktops that are not securely affixed to the rest of the desk. So they wobble, they squeak, they wiggle. It's very distracting. Window blinds are unreliable. The one in my room actually fell onto a student's head my first year here. The heating's unreliable, so sometimes we have classrooms that are too hot or too cold, or both within an hour, which is really interesting. I have built-in cabinetry in my room, and of the 7 drawers in the unit, only 2 of those drawers have handles. The veneer has broken off in large sections from the countertop, which presents snagging hazards for children's clothing. Guess I can't wear my uniform shirt, miss, it ripped. No, put your shirt on. But they do try. The room itself is dark, it's got harsh fluorescent lighting, it's really hard on the eyes. The window has no screens. There's no mechanism to hold it open to prevent a breeze from slamming it shut. It startles the students, scares the heck out of me, interrupts the workflow in the classroom. The number of electrical outlets is often inadequate to meet the electrical needs of what's going on in the class. If we have a 21st century classroom, that's going to include electricity. And I have 3 electrical outlet panels. The air circulation and temperature are inadequate, resulting in still, stale air. Put yourself into the shoes of my students. They don't want to breathe that. I don't want to breathe it. Library Media Center. So the Library Media Center's 23-year-old carpet is a digestive hue of tannish salmon that is so old that it's separating from its backing in several places. Also, it's so severely caked with dirt that our custodians have to wear masks when they vacuum it. Either because of this, or because of air filtration and/or ventilation issues, I don't know. Books are often crusted with such a thick layer of dust that they have to be thrown away. As an English teacher, that kills me. As an asthmatic, I dread the days when I have to bring my kids to the LMC to work, because it means I'm going to need to hit my inhaler more. In addition, the temperature is unreliable, and that could be because of the 2 large heaters that don't work. But I know that makes learning difficult for my students when they're blowing on their fingers to warm them up so they can use the computer in the winter, or asking constantly if they can go get a drink of water because they're too hot. The lighting in the room is funereal. And the setup would be so much better if it were designed thoughtfully, in a way that encouraged students to sit and read, to discuss, and the place was illuminated with lights that didn't strain their eyes. Hallways. This is a largely ignored area of the school that gives us a chance to make either a really good or a really bad impression on people who are coming in. Our lockers are rusted, the lighting is poor, and we miss the opportunity to use the hallways as a space to display our student work. Hinges of doors that have worn out after years of replacement allow those doors to simply slam shut, regardless of who might be standing in the doorway. Water-soaked ceiling tiles have fallen from their housing onto the heads of students walking beneath them. And our stairways have grown mold periodically from lack of proper ventilation. Cafeteria. There are substantial areas of missing tile and antiquated furniture. The space is not designed in a way that allows the student traffic to flow quickly through the line to maximize the time that the kids have in there. They have 22 minutes, and they're like spending a lot of it in line. The acoustics in the room are problematic, maximizing the chatter in there rather than swallowing the sound in order to facilitate a calmer and quieter environment. The gym wing. Large chunks of missing tile. Locker rooms and bathrooms are in severe disrepair, and some of the bathroom stalls don't even have locks. The weight room is not properly ventilated and incubates a variety of health concerns that would be mitigated through redesign. Moreover, there are renovations that would only enhance the building, and our programs, such as addition of reliable and current technology, such as computer labs and mobile labs that bring the entire world to a student's fingertips, and increase their ability to access information and increase their productivity. Specialized areas. We have 2 academies. We should have a dark room that is current and working. Sound recording studio, television studio, dance studio, art gallery, robotics lab, updated science laboratories, a greenhouse or botanical lab. We should be growing some of the food that we eat. Climate control in order to regulate temperature in a more cost-efficient way. Green technologies that facilitate cost saving, as well as leaving a smaller carbon footprint and increasing environmental responsibility. We're teaching our kids about this. We should be doing it. As a teacher, I can tell you these renovations aren't just desirable. This isn't just like my Hanukkah list. They're a necessity. If we want to educate the children of this school district in a way that prepares them for the world after high school, there are certain tools we need to give them. And our building is not currently set up to allow us to do that. Refusing to pass the budget, refusing a renovation, the cost of which we only need to pay 20% of, because I don't have $89 million on me, right? Is tantamount to telling our students, we know you need this, but we've decided you can't have it. As a teacher in this district, I find that message unacceptable. My students don't deserve that message. Your children don't deserve that message. Teachers are masters at making do. We can and do work with a variety of students, with a variety of needs, 10 months of the year or more, on shoestring budgets with nothing but intelligence and creativity some days to help us make it through. We can make do, but my students shouldn't have to make do, and your kids shouldn't have to make do. I currently work 4 part-time jobs in addition to my full-time job here at Windham High School. Much of my salary comes right back into this building and has paid to fill the gap between what my students need and what the school is able to provide for them, based on the budgets that are passed. But no part-time salaries can pay for the cost of a redesign. It is said that it takes a village to raise a child, and I agree. And part of that child raising includes providing students with a safe, updated environment that plays a significant role in the educational process. I want to share with you an experience from last year that absolutely broke my heart. My freshman classes were involved in an inter-district grant with another school, and one of those work days consisted of us visiting Killingley High School. My students were completely in awe. They were walking around like this. The modern cafeteria, there was a woman chopping fresh vegetables. There were big screen TVs where students were watching the news. There was a library media center designed to look more like a Barnes & Noble than a library. And the hallways, which one of the kids said looked like Buckland Hills Mall. However, when it was Killingley's turn to visit us, our students begged us to find another location. They offered to fundraise to rent a space elsewhere so that the kids wouldn't have to come here and see their school. They said they were embarrassed for their Killingley counterparts to see our building. They didn't want them to see the cafeteria, the hallways, and they were so ashamed of the way our building looked. Their desperate embarrassment saddened me. I understood it, but the impact of being so fundamentally mortified by the thought of someone else seeing their school, their home, the place where they spend all day, every day, really showed me how they see their learning environment. It's hard to be successful in a place that you're ashamed of. I want our students to be proud of their school, not only what happens here, but also the way the school looks and the way that it functions. I want their chests to puff out when they tell people they go to Windham High School. Next, I'd like to speak as a parent. The teacher part was way long, I promise. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the mother of 2 Windham students. Rebecca is in arts and humanities, and her experience in the building has included a couple of infections that have resulted from cutting herself on school window frames and broken hardware on our bathroom sinks. Moreover, she does not have access to the environmental enhancements that would enrich her experiences as an AHA student, some of which I referred to earlier. I want Rebecca to have the best high school experience she possibly can as a Windham High School student. I know her teachers, and I know that she is being instructed by the best there are. But the environment in which she's learning is both unsafe and outdated. And then there's Sarah, who's coming up to be a freshman at AHA next year. When she shadowed here, she was really excited at first, until she hit the upstairs hallway. And all of a sudden, I was getting excuses. My throat is scratchy, maybe we could do this another time. And I was like, no, go to your shadow. But she was really afraid, just based on her little glimpse at the upstairs hallway. She's a really strong vocalist who should be stretching herself here as an AHA student. She should be using modern technology to create vocal recordings. And the rest of her day should be like top-of-the-line technological stuff. Sarah has several friends who are choosing not to come here next year. When I've asked them why, their number one answer has been that that school is so old and run down, or school X is newer, or it's way ghetto, miss. It's not about the stuff. It's about the way the physical makeup of the space works with the instruction and the teacher and the student in order to produce learning. It's part of that equation. And if you're missing a part of an equation, you can't get the full result. If I didn't know how good this school really is, if I weren't acquainted with the teachers who work around the clock to make a difference in the lives of every single student here, I would probably think about sending Sarah elsewhere. And Rebecca probably never would have gotten here either. And that would have been a shame, because they would have missed out on some wonderful opportunities if they'd been students anywhere else. We lose far too many students every year who don't know and whose families don't know how good this place really is. Lastly, I speak to you as a taxpayer. Ladies and gentlemen, please make no mistake about it. I'm not excited about paying higher taxes. Teacher or no teacher, I currently work 5 jobs, and traipsing off to find a 6th holds no appeal for me whatsoever. In fact, I was so distressed about it that I actually did some research to find out how much this redesign would cost me, because it's all about me. The data I was able to pull up is that 2019 would be my most expensive year, and it would go up approximately $25 a month. So that's less than we spend when we order pizza for my family. I could use a little less pizza, so we're good. In addition, I would very much like to protect the property value of my home. I want neighbors who want to move into this community because they've heard great things about our school system and they can't wait to enroll their kids. I want our high school to be the go-to place for our community. And it's going to be more money, there's no question about that. But the real question is, do we want to pay 2 pieces worth of money now, or like a turkey dinner in 5 years if we procrastinate? Because that's what it can come down to. I'm a really good procrastinator, but I know a deal when I see it, so I want to jump on this now. The fact is that the problems that exist at Windham High School cannot be addressed any other way than to renovate the space. The stairs are not going to unmold themselves. Cabinets are not going to magically grow handles when no one's looking. There's no magic pill. It's kind of like having a crater in the road. Eventually it's going to have to be fixed or it'll swallow your car. This is no different. We have to do this renovation now, before the damage grows. The gap our students have fallen into widens, and before it costs us even more money to repair it. No one votes on whether or not to fix holes in the road. You ever notice that? It's just done, because it has to be done. And yet we're thinking twice about whether or not we want to fix our high school and make it productive and usable for our students, or if we're just going to keep letting them fall into a crater. When you move into a community, you accept the responsibility of educating the children within it. And part of that responsibility is maintaining their learning environment. I think it's human nature for people to think, well, I'm not in high school anymore, and none of my kids are maybe, so why do I need to support this initiative? The answer is because it's the right thing to do. Plain and simple. It's just right. The answer is that we grew up in educational communities that were supported by taxpayers, and our responsibility is no less than theirs was. I understand that we're a poor community, I get that. I'm not saying the redesigned high school be floored and marbled with gold toilets, right? I'm saying that my students need this. The children of our community, of our village, need this. No one's personal individual interests or agenda can be more important than what the children of this community need. Ladies and gentlemen, please look over there. Raise your hands, guys. These students are some of the writing tutors who work in our peer-tutored writing center here at Windham High School, and they're going to be walking you around the school on some tours later. And they stay because they're invested in making a difference in their school, even the juniors who won't be here when the first wall is felled in this building. They're a small microcosm of the students who walk through the halls of this building every day, writing tutors who volunteer their time and energy to help their peers. My last question to you is this. Would you look any one of them in the eye and tell them that you refuse to vote in order to give them a safe and updated environment in which to learn? Thank you.
Thank you, Dara. For those of you who aren't aware, by and large, our teachers are all like this. Dara has, for the past 3 years, gotten a grant from the Holocaust Museum in New York to pay for buses and our students to get into the Holocaust Museum at no cost to them. She puts her money where her mouth is, literally. She buys Pop-Tarts and markers and pencils, and she will see a sale at Staples and call me and say, go and get 10 of those folders because they're a penny each. So she puts her money where her mouth is, and all of our teachers do, and they've been doing more with less for a very long time. And this building is just one microcosm, one little piece of exactly what we need to do to turn this educational system around. High school renovation plans for the future of our students. Renovation as new, as I said before, from the ceilings to the floors, everything will be taken out. Non-load-bearing walls will be moved, and architectural drawing will be done. There's a town building committee that will be formed once this is approved through referendum, and they will do the hard work of putting this together once we get this referendum passed. Needs to meet the educational needs of our students, as everyone has said. Code violations, maintenance and environmental issues, and for the safety of our students. I think after Ms. Bowling spoke, I don't need to say any more on that. Reduce ongoing maintenance costs. Wayne Donaldson has done a lot with less since he came here a year and a half ago. We have had some major improvements to this building. Painting, I'm sure you smelled it when you came in. Painting is going on. Floor tiles are being replaced where he has to. During the new roof project that's going to be going on starting this summer, floor tiles are going to be replaced, asbestos abatement, things like that when our students aren't in the building. These are all things we're doing. We're not replacing the tiles, knowing that we're going to be renovating the school. We're just removing them and polishing the floors. That's all we're doing. So I don't want anybody to think we're wasting money on new tiles. The impact of the perceptions regarding school quality on college and career opportunities for graduates. Ms. Bowling spoke about that. She spoke about how students don't want to come here because this is an antiquated building, spending $1 million of our taxpayer money, sending our students somewhere else to learn. Impact of property values. Everybody knows when the school system is good, property values go up. When I bought my house here 20 years ago, the middle school was being built across the street from my house, and I thought, there's a town that invests in education, that's where I want to raise my family. And now I'm fighting to continue to have us invest in education. Impact the ability to attract and retain the best teachers. We spoke about that earlier, how we have a high teacher turnover. If teachers have the resources they need and feel like they're supported by the community, they'll be more willing to stay and keep our professional development and other resources we invest in them right here for the better of our students. Why now? No action is taken in the community to approve the referendum to update the high school facilities in order to improve the learning outcomes for our children. Windham High School's accreditation may be in jeopardy. We continue to lose students, then we are going to be in a financial conundrum, and there are real financial issues that come up with having to send students out of district for a long term and for a short term.
You won't explain that, right? You have to spit that. What is it? You won't explain that yet.
Ask the question.
That's right.
Let me finish this, okay? Elementary schools. Current state of our elementary school plans. Our elementary schools have been moved towards the back burner. They are not in as dire a need here. Elementary schools do not get accredited. They can. However, we have chosen to use the resources, the money, the energy, the time it takes to accredit our elementary schools. It's not necessary to luxuriate them, to put it back into our schools to better serve our students, to put those dollars directly to our students' education instead of accreditation. Many schools have the same issues in this district and other districts, but we're up for accreditation this year, and it's a big deal not to have the accreditation. That's why the board chose, not just me, the entire board, to move this to the forefront of our school plan. There is the website. Carrie Marquis has developed it. It is dedicated to the high school project. The video that you saw earlier, question and answers will be on there, updates as we're going to go before the town council, the board of finance, things that may be happening here. Probably have some updates on the roof project and the floor replacement project as it goes on here over the summer. Are going to be posted there, and there is a sign-up sheet where you can leave your email address, and email and updates will be directly emailed to you. After this, you can turn in your question cards. I'm sorry? They can give them to Carrie Marquis right down here in the front, and we're going to have the tours. 2 students to a tour, and they will be grouped to take you throughout the building and show you what's going on in our building right now. Yes, I'll be in the media center to answer questions after. We're not doing a group question and answer right now. So after the tours, you'll be able to come to the media center. Mr. Donaldson, myself, other members of staff will be there to answer questions for you. Thank you.